Hi, I'm Andy Mioch and you're watching A News. Here are the headlines. The United Nations condemns any violation of Syria's territorial integrity, UN spokesperson says. The World Health Organization chief confident of finalizing pandemic treaty next year. A fast-moving wildfire near Los Angeles destroys homes and forces evacuations. Thanks for tuning in. The United Nations is against any violation of Syria's territorial integrity. UN Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, called for de-escalation and civilian protection, commenting on the Israeli strikes on its neighbor. Pedersen added that the transformation of Syria must remain inclusive to avoid further conflict, stressing that actions from international actors must not undermine the country's future stability. UN Secretary-General spokesperson Stefan Dujarric also emphasized that Syria must be allowed to determine its own path, free from external interference.
It is very clear that we stand against any violation of the territorial integrity of Syria. We are against these types of attacks. I think this is a turning point for Syria. It should not be used by its neighbors to encroach on the territory of Syria. It should be used by all those in the region and beyond to support the Syrian people so they can choose their own path, so they can work on a transition that is Syrian-led, that is Syrian-owned, that is inclusive, where all the minorities, the myriads of minorities that are in Syria feel safe and feel they are part of the Syrian nation.
For an update on Israeli forces moving into the demilitarized zone with Syria, we go to the Israeli-Syrian border and Trent Murray.
We are standing at the border between Israel and Syria. As you can probably see behind me, this is now an active military zone. The Israelis continuing to pour those Merkaba tanks, artillery troops into that vast area behind me, which since 1974 was a demilitarized zone separating Israel and Syria. But the fall of the Assad regime has seen the Israelis spring into action as the Syrian troops on the other side abandoned their posts on Saturday when the Assad regime fell. Well, the Israelis moved in quick, seizing that demilitarized zone. Now, the justification, they say, is that they are concerned about their security, given the events happening in Syria. They have also launched operations, not just on the ground, but of course in the sky. You hear the constant buzz of drones here, even fighter jets at times. Over 350 airstrikes reported across Syria. The Israelis say they are targeting the remnants of Assad's military, air force bases, naval ports, army bases. They say they're worried the weapons left behind by those troops could fall into the hands of extremists. But of course, this military maneuver has also attracted considerable criticism across the Middle East. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and others saying that Israel is using what has happened in Syria, where there is a power vacuum, as a catalyst, an opportunity to seize this territory permanently for themselves. Trent Murray for A News at the Israel-Syria border.
Meanwhile, across the globe, countless families displaced by the Syrian civil war are now making life-changing decisions to come home and rebuild their lives.
13 years after fleeing the civil war, Ala Jabir tearfully prepares to return home to Syria from Turkey. His return is a bittersweet one, as he will be taking his only surviving daughter, 10-year-old Syrian, with him. In early 2023, he lost his wife and 3 other children in the devastating earthquakes that struck southern Turkey as well as parts of Syria.
We lived here and she was born here, and we are indebted to the Turkish people, the government and people for hosting us. And praise be to God the Almighty and to you. That is, of course, after God's grace and Turkey, relief has come. And by God's will today, as I cry for my children, I also cry for Turkey. Because it's here they were born, grew up, were educated, and here they died.
Jabir first arrived in Turkey's Hatay province in 2011 when tensions flared between former President Bashar al-Assad and rebels in Damascus. Now, following Assad's exile to Russia, Turkey reopened the Yayladağ border crossing, encouraging some of the 3 million Syrian refugees it hosts to return voluntarily. Hopeful for a better future, Jabir expressed gratitude to Turkey for its support during his years of refuge, but was eager to reunite with his mother in Latakia. Jabir said that he believes the new administration will bring an end to oppression.
I hope by God's will that the situation will be better than before and family follows. When I came here, I was met with the best reception. I care for this country very much. The door was open for us, from food to medicine to dreams to reception to security and safety. I'm sad to leave.
Turkey, which controls parts of northern Syria, emphasized its commitment to voluntary, safe, dignified and regular returns as stability improves in Syria. The reopened border crossing marks a significant step in facilitating those returns after years of closure and conflict.
And as Syrians are trying to go home, some foreign nationals are being evacuated out of the country. The Pakistani government arranged the evacuation of 100 of its citizens via Lebanon. Hira Mustafa brings the details from Islamabad.
Pakistan has confirmed that it has evacuated 100 citizens from Syria. With the airport still closed in Damascus, they crossed over into Lebanon and will fly back home from Beirut. Pakistan says it is arranging chartered flights from Lebanon and says Beirut has promised to facilitate more evacuations. Of the 100 who left Syria, 80 are pilgrims and 20 are students. The government says there are 171 pilgrims who are still stranded in Syria, along with 300 Pakistani nationals who want to return home. Islamabad says that it is making all efforts to bring all of its citizens back safely and quickly, and that officials in Pakistan's embassies in Syria and Lebanon are in touch with those still stranded. Pakistan's cabinet has also been briefed on evacuation efforts, and the country's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says bringing Pakistani nationals back is his top priority. For now, the government has urged its citizens in Syria to exercise extreme caution and to remain in close contact with officials until arrangements can be made to bring them back home. Hira Mustafa for A News in Islamabad.
In Ukraine, a Russian missile attack has killed at least 8 people and injured another 22, including a child, in the southern city of Zaporizhia, local officials say. As many as 5 people may still be trapped under the rubble after Tuesday's strike on a private clinic and residential buildings in the city center, police say. Overnight, rescuers pulled out 2 women from the wreckage who are now being treated in a hospital. A search and rescue operation is continuing. Zaporizhia regional head Ivan Fedorov says Russia fired a ballistic missile. Russia's defense ministry has not yet commented. The war in Gaza has brought about a food crisis, with basic supplies like flour running low. Displaced Palestinians are struggling to secure food as prices soar and food distribution networks collapse.
In Gaza, with food resources becoming increasingly scarce and many unable to prepare meals at home, violent incidents have broken out. On November 29, a tragic stampede occurred in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza when a large crowd rushed to buy crackers. The chaos resulted in the deaths of 2 women and a child, highlighting the desperate situation faced by many. In Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, people, including 70-year-old displaced Palestinian Nabil Bassioni, have waited for hours at food shops to buy some crackers.
I've been standing here for more than 3 hours, but I still haven't bought any crackers. I can only go back to my children with nothing.
The shortage has forced many food stalls in southern Gaza to close, and prices have surged dramatically, with crackers now costing nearly 32 times more than before the recent conflict.
Qatar says it has resumed its mediation efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, aiming for a truce and a possible hostage exchange.
Qatar's involvement in mediating a ceasefire in Gaza has gained renewed momentum, with the country actively engaging in discussions with relevant parties. According to Majid bin Mohammed Al Ansari, a spokesman for Qatar's foreign ministry, recent developments have shown some positive factors that could help advance negotiations. However, while the atmosphere surrounding the talks is more favorable, Al Ansari emphasized that these positive signs do not guarantee that a resolution will be reached.
We do believe that it's not useful to say that pressure should be on one party, not the other. We need to pressure both parties into an agreement.
Qatar has suspended its mediation efforts in November, citing the lack of seriousness from both Hamas and Israel in their discussions over a ceasefire and hostage release.
Over in South Korea, police attempted to search the president's office as part of an investigation into his controversial declaration of martial law, but have not been able to enter the main building. Yoon Suk-yeol's short-lived martial law imposition sparked outrage in the country and calls for his resignation.
South Korean police attempted to search President Yoon Suk-yeol's office as a part of an investigation into his controversial decision to impose martial law last week. However, officers were unable to enter the main building, according to local news reports. A presidential security service official initially confirmed the raid, but Yonhap news agency later reported that investigators had not yet managed to access the main premises. The delay reportedly stemmed from disagreements between the police and the Presidential Secret Service over the methods of the search and seizure. Plastic flower garlands placed, which had ribbons bearing messages such as "Go Yoon Suk-yeol" along the walls of the presidential compound, which was flanked with a heavy police presence. The investigation follows Yoon Suk-yeol's surprise declaration of martial law on December 3, which he rescinded hours later after widespread public backlash and political opposition. This unprecedented move has created a constitutional crisis in South Korea, prompting lawmakers from the main opposition Democratic Party to call for Yoon's resignation or impeachment.
계엄을 해제한다 해도
Even if martial law is lifted, it cannot avoid treason charges. It was clearly revealed to the entire nation that President Yoon could no longer run the country normally. He should step down, resign immediately. This is the mandate of the people.
South Korea's National Assembly can impeach the president if 2/3 of lawmakers approve, followed by a trial in the Constitutional Court requiring 6 of 9 justices to confirm the motion. Yoon's party holds 108 seats in the 300-member legislature. The police raid marks a significant escalation in the investigation against Yoon and senior officials involved in the martial law declaration, the first such order since 1980.
The chief of the World Health Organization expressed confidence that a global pandemic agreement will be finalized by May 2025, despite concerns over U.S. participation when President-elect Donald Trump takes office.
For the past 2 years, 194 members of the World Health Organization have been negotiating over the pandemic agreement. Its aim is to increase global cooperation in preventing and managing future health crises after recognizing failures during COVID-19. Despite setbacks, the WHO is hopeful that a deal can be concluded in time for the World Health Assembly next May. However, there are concerns that the Trump administration, which has previously questioned international health agreements, may not support the deal. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus remained optimistic. He reassured that the WHO's partnership with the United States has been successful for many years.
We're ready to work together. And The relationship between WHO and US, the United States, has been actually a good model of partnership and has been partnering for many years, and we believe that that will be the case. And I believe, the US leaders understand that, the US cannot be safe unless the rest of the world is safe.
An initial attempt to seal an agreement failed this year, and diplomats see a deal, which right-wing commentators say would undermine sovereignty, as less likely under Trump.
Over in the US, a fast-moving wildfire near Los Angeles forced some residents in Malibu to evacuate as it threatened homes, knocked out power, and closed roads in the beach community.
A wildfire driven by strong winds ignited northwest of Los Angeles, prompting evacuations in parts of Malibu as it threatened homes, disrupted power, and closed roads in the coastal area. Known as the Franklin Fire, the blaze expanded rapidly overnight in steep mountainous terrain. It spread south across the Pacific Coast Highway, endangering the scenic city of about 10,000 residents. The fire remains uncontained and has destroyed a few homes, but caused no injuries or fatalities, according to Los Angeles County Fire Chief. Los Angeles County Sheriff reported that evacuation orders were issued for 2,043 structures, with warnings for an additional 646 properties. Governor Gavin Newsom announced that California secured federal assistance to combat the wildfire. The National Weather Service issued a red flag warning due to increased fire risk, with winds gusting up to 104 kilometers per hour, creating hazardous conditions.
That's all we have for you for now. Thanks for tuning in and keep watching A News.